Hello Year 5 and welcome to your first spelling lesson of the week. I'm going to talk you through spelling this week because we're just going to do it slightly differently to how we have done it before. Recognise our spelling bee because that's what we're about to do. Now the first part of our spelling session each day is going to start with a little bit of revision of something that we have done previously. Now what we're going to look at today is something we looked at last half term when you were at home. So in the first couple of weeks when you were doing your remote learning, we looked at this particular thing. So what are we going to revise today? What am I going to pull out of the cauldron that we're going to practice today? This is what we're going to do today. Can you identify the verbs in these nouns? Just get a scrap piece of paper, or if you're in school, whiteboard, anything. And what you're going to do is you're going to identify which are the verbs in these nouns here. This is an activity that you've done before. Pause the video, see if you can find those nouns and write them down for me, please. Okay, hopefully you have done so. Let me go through what they were. So the first verb was, of course, act. Then we had attract, direct, instruct, destruct, complete. Hope this one didn't catch you out because you needed to, and this caught a lot of people out when you did this task before. What do I need to put on the end there to make that verb correct? An E. And again on this one, hesitate. Again, we need an E. So what did the suffix, can you see that we've actually had the suffix ion has been added to each one of these words, which is one we did a couple of weeks ago. So the ion has been added to each of these verbs and it turns it into, well, I've told you at the top what it turns into. When you add ion onto these verbs, we create nouns, okay? So just to clarify that, the suffix ion is used to turn verbs into nouns. So for example, you could have the word educate, and again this one has an E on the end. Notice before, when we have the E on the end, quite often we have to take off the E before we add our suffix to it, and that is the case with this word educate. We take off the E, then we add ion, and then it becomes a thing, education, your education. So we've changed it from a verb, being educated, which is what you're being now, and at the moment you're also having, it's a thing, your education. Okay, so each time we start spellings we're going to start with a little revision part. So that was the example of how we might do that. And then we're going to move on to our actual learning intention for the week. Now, Monday the 1st of March, our learning intention is to spell words that end in ably and ibly. Now, you're probably going to say, we've done this before. You haven't actually done this. Before you've done able and ibble. So there are going to be some similarities between the rules for able and ibble words that you've previously done and ably and ibly. So here's my first challenge for you. Or should I explain first that the suffixes ably and ibly are used to form adverbs. Okay, the first task I'd like you to do, and you have a sheet to fill in to do this, is write down the root word to each of these ably and ibly words. We've got believably, admirably, adorably, arguably, presumably, bearably, agreeably, avoidably, affordably, adjustably, terribly, incredibly, visibly, and possibly. Now, can you find the root words of all of these words? Pause the video and have a go at completing that task for me. Okay, I'm assuming you've had a go at that now. Let's have a look, shall we, and see if we can write the root word for each one. So the first one is, of course, believe. Then it's admire, adore, argue, presume. Okay, excellent. And then the next row we have bear, agree, avoid, afford, and adjust. Those are the root words. Those are the easier two columns. Now this column is slightly trickier because there isn't a clear root word there, is there? But if we think about it, we can come up with a root word that there was there. But they're not all following the same rules, are they? So the root word would be terrible, would it? We can't clearly see a root word, but if we think about it, it could be terrible, it could be incredible, could be visible, and it could be possible. But we can't see the whole root word in that word there, can we? We can't see the whole of terrible in there. We've got tear, and then we've got ibly. We've got incred, and then we've got, ibly. We've got viz, and then we've got ibly. Pos and ibly. Interesting. Okay, my next challenge for you is look again, and now we've got the root words and the words with ably, and we've got the root words and the word when ably's been added and with ibly. Can you find a rule that would apply to each of these columns? Or there are more than one things that you could think about that help you. Are there any words which do not fit? Can you think of any exception words? Okay, again, pause the video, have a think about it, have a look at these words. We've got the word believe here, and then it becomes believably. What's happened? What's changed from the root word to give us our ably word? What's changed with our root word here? Has it changed? Have a look. And again here, these words here, see what you can think. Find. Pause the video, and then welcome back. Let's have a look. What are the rules? What ably rules can we find from having read that? I'm going to have to change my font colour, otherwise you're not going to see what I'm writing. Let's go to white. Okay, so ably rules. Let's go back to these ably words. What's happened here with these ably words? With believe, before we've added the ably, what have we done? We've taken off the E. So when it ends in a vowel, we have to take off the vowel before we add the ably. Again, admire ends in a vowel, so we drop the E and then we add the ably. Okay, and so on and so forth. So type here, I've started to do that. I've got nothing to type yet, but let's have a go. So what we have going on here is if we ably rule, so if it ends in a vowel, we drop the E before we add, ably. Okay, oops, this is passing in what you're doing. Okay, that's one thing we spotted. There maybe more than one thing. So let's go back again and look at our ably words. What's happening in this? Oops, gone too far. Excuse me. In this row here, we've got bear and agree, avoid, afford, adjust. Now if you look at bear, avoid, afford and adjust, what do all those words end in? They all end in a consonant. We can always see the whole word as well, can't we? If it ends in a consonant, do we have to take anything off before we add the ably, or do we just add the ably? We are just adding the ably. Okay, so let's go over to our rules page again. So if it ends in a consonant, let's just check, what are our vowels, just to remind ourselves. What are our vowels? Hang on, let's just type this. So if it ends in a consonant, then we just add the ably. Okay, so what are our vowels? Just to make sure we remember what our vowels were. Let's go back, change my font again, otherwise you're not going to see it. So what are our vowels? Can you tell me what the vowels are? Hopefully you're saying A, E, I, O and U. Those are all the vowels. So what are the consonants? The consonants are all the other letters in the alphabet. B, C, D, F, G, H, J, K and so on. Okay, so when our word ends in a vowel, and in this case these root words all ended in an E, didn't we? So we dropped that E before we added the ably. What about with the ibly words? Now these are tricky, aren't they? Because if you can't see the whole root word, which we can't see, that's the root word, that's where it's come from, but we only saw a part of it, didn't we? If we can't see all the root words, then if you can't see all the root word, then we just have to know we have to add, it's an ibly ending, isn't it? So if you can't see the root word, it usually ends in ibly. But there was one word back here that didn't fit that. With our agreeably, didn't seem to follow that, did it? Agreeably, we can see the whole word, but we've added ably, and it didn't end in a consonant like bear and avoid and afford and adjust. So I'm going to put agreeably into our rule breakers, because with everything we learn, every rule we learn about words, there's always rule breakers. Okay, so let's just move on. Further rules to think about. Oh, this is kind of another way of thinking about it. This comes back to the able and ably thinking that we were thinking about the other day. So if words ending in ably, let's focus on ably because we've done able before, is usually but not always used if a complete root word can be heard before it. So for example, we've got depend, ably, because we can see the whole word. Okay, and it also does end in a consonant, thinking about the other rule that we picked up. The ible word endings, or ibly, sorry, is when you can't see the whole root word in it. The root word is possible, but you can't see the whole root word in it. So it's ibly, okay, and it's quite tricky. There's also another little rule here. If the ibly ending is added to a word ending in ge, ce, the e must be kept before the ably is ended. So for example, for the word changeably, which is a word, I did check that one out, noticeably, and knowledgeable, where the root word ends in ge, you just add ably. Okay, so there's lots of rules to think about there. Okay, thinking about helping us to learn how to spell these words, looking at the root word, thinking about, remember we said that ably and ibly turn words into adverbs. So if we're looking for an adverb, and we're not sure about how to spell an adverb, such as believably. Now if we know the word believe and we want to make it into an adverb, we've just learned that we have to take off that e at the end of believe before we add the ably. So this is really important rules to help you with your spellings. So this week's spellings are here for you. List 1, list 2, list 3 and list 4. Can you please copy down your spellings, or they are on your sheet at home so you can see where they are, and have a look at them. If there are any words that you are unsure of the meaning, can I suggest please that you look them up? Okay, some of these words, for example, applicably, you might not know what the meaning of it is. So just have a look in the dictionary, online dictionary or an actual paper dictionary, either is fine, to make sure you're comfortable with the meaning of your spelling words. It's important that you know what they mean too. Okay, so that's today's spelling lesson.